Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. I am Tony Gerdeman, here as always with Tom. Tom, how's it going?
Well, Tony, as we're going to be discussing on today's show, I'm a little concerned with how much time you and I might have to spend with Kevin Noon in the next couple of years, because, oh boy, we got to talk college football playoff schedules and what it might mean specifically for our lives. I mean, the rest of the world, whatever, but specifically, Tony, for you and me.
Now, Tom, first off, May the 4th be with you. All right. Good job there. Mm-hmm. Don't not with the Spock thing. Secondly, I mentioned on the message board that we got a negative review on the podcast because we are too mean to Kevin Noon. So
that's someone who doesn't understand
Kevin Noon.
I was going to say what it's like to work with Kevin Noon. I think that's just like, yeah, I mean, it's like someone being like, why do you keep talking about how hot it is in Phoenix? And it's like, listen, if you're writing that review from Portland, Oregon, I understand why you think we're being outrageous about how hot it is in Phoenix, but there are people who live in Phoenix who can tell you all about it.
Yeah, but at least with Kevin, it's a dry heat.
I'm not sure that's strictly true, but that's fine. We'll continue. Let's just move on with the show and say that it is.
So the playoff committee came out on Tuesday with dates, and we knew kind of roughly the dates, but like the exact dates and the first sites of the first year of the 12-team playoff, which starts in 2024 as we get ready to go through our lame duck 2023 college football season. And it's fun to look at, and I know I'm going to be reading some of this to you, and it kind of gets lost in the podcast. But the first round, obviously, we knew was going to be on campus of the higher ranked 5, 6, 7, 8 teams. So it starts on Friday, December 20th with a night game. And then the next day, you've got early afternoon, late afternoon, and an evening game. So it's like you watch it at night, you go to bed, you wake up in the morning, you watch a pregame show, and then boom, 3 games, 3 first-round playoff games on campus in a row. Tom, I think this will be the biggest thing in college football history to this point. And then like 10 days later, then you get into the bowl games, and that becomes the biggest thing in college football history.
Yeah, this is one of those things where, I mean, we'll get to the negatives for this, but this is going to turn the Saturday before Christmas and then the New Year's Day from, Saturday before Christmas is kind of a non-event in terms of college football until now. And it's going to turn it from nothing to an enormous day. And then all the people our age who talk about, remember when New Year's Day was the biggest day in college football? Oh, friends, just wait. It is about to be the biggest day in college football again. And, all of the bowl games don't mean anything anymore because they, no one cares and players are opting out. And, the New Year's Day just doesn't mean what it used to. That's all about to change.
Yeah. And New Year's, it would kind of replicate the first round. The quarterfinals would have one game New Year's Eve. And this year, or when it starts the first year in 2024, that will be the Fiesta Bowl. And then Wednesday, January 1st, New Year's Day, you've got the Peach Bowl early afternoon, the Rose Bowl in its standard late afternoon slot, and then the Sugar Bowl. And I know initially when this word broke out like a week or so ago that there's going to be midweek playoff games, people are like midweek, and it's like, nobody ever complains about midweek when it's January 1st. When talking about New Year's bowl games, like, oh, I can't stand these Tuesday New Year's Day bowl games. It's just New Year's Day. That is the day, not the day of the week. And so the quarterfinals get back to that at various ball sites, and it's going to be fantastic. I do wonder if the playoff games at home on campuses do so well that maybe college football starts to think we don't need the bowl games in the quarterfinals. I don't know that they can ever break free of themselves, though.
Yeah, it feels like, and I think there is an argument to be made that you can do away with the bowl games. That's something you could do, and no disrespect to the folks at the Peach Bowl who were wonderful hosts last year, but it's not like the Peach Bowl has been this incredible college football institution for generations. Really, the only two that are really, really significant, New Year's Day, nothing ever changes, are Rose Bowl and Sugar Bowl. And, you want to include the Orange Bowl in there, like, okay, that's fine. But I would not be devastated if they changed those to campus sites. But it feels like at this point, it's probably just sort of like it's in the walls. The bowl reps and their jackets, they're in the walls. And so you just kind of like, they're here now. So I guess good luck getting them out. I don't think you're going to be able to get them out now. Like, it feels like this is part of the 12-team playoff format now. That's probably how it's going to be, at least through the first. I mean, how long is the first 12-team playoff contract? Is it 8 years, 10 years, 12 years, something like that?
Are they revisiting it after 2 years?
Are they revisiting it after 2 years? Okay, so yeah, I fully expect them to continue to do it as bowl sites and not as on-campus things. I would prefer it to be on-campus things, but I get that that's probably not, that realistically, I don't expect that to happen. And
yeah, at this point, the money has been so great that if they wanted to get away from it, it seems like they already would have. And it's just so intertwined and then basically incestuous at this point that the DNA has been, affected. There's no going back at this point. You can't unwrite what has been written. And then the semifinals, the first year would be the Orange Bowl and the Cotton Bowl, Tom. And I know in my rundown, I've put the championship game is in Miami, but is actually in Atlanta. So just keep that in mind. Should Atlanta have 2 games? I mean, they've got the quarterfinals and the national championship game. Seems like a bit much, but Atlanta is an easy-ish place to get to, I guess. So maybe it makes sense. But also, Atlanta is a standalone as a championship city. So I guess that also factors in.
Yeah, and I mean, we've been to Miami for a championship game. We've been to Atlanta for a semifinal game. I mean, they're both cities that are, you can find fun stuff to do there. And if you're a fan going there, there's a lot of flights into Atlanta. There's a bunch of flights into Miami. They're both relatively easy places to get to. So, I mean, I guess I would prefer, if you're going to do this and these sites are going to be hosting quarterfinals, that then the championship game rotates other places and you don't necessarily always do it in those 2 places. Or what I would actually really prefer, Tony, is, hey, what if we just held the national championship game in the Rose Bowl every year, because that is the most college football venue there is, as opposed to just borrowing an NFL stadium for a couple hours.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing that. I assume it'll happen at some point, but they get bid out, and so does Pasadena even have any money at this point?
Spend it all on traffic barriers to make it hard to get around on game day, and cars covered in flowers. So yeah, no, they're out of money. Sorry.
Yeah, just spend it all on parade routes and mowing the lawn so that everything looks nice while people are walking along their floats and whatnot. So I wanted to look at, because I know people are concerned about how this affects us. That's what people are mostly concerned about. Like, on one hand, they want to know how would it affect Ohio State. On the other hand, how would it affect us? And so I thought, let's just throw a bracket together and see how it would affect both of us, not both you and I, and also Ohio State. And so I have in this bracket, just because I wanted to make it the most travel possible for us so that we can complain the most. Not that we're complaining. But in this bracket, I have Ohio State as the 9 seed going to Auburn, which, fantastic. Would love to see a game there, I guess. There are other places in the SEC that would be great. But the top 4 seeds that I have as 1, USC, because they're going to be outstanding. Everybody knows that. The 2 seed is Georgia, so they'll have a bye. Texas will have a bye as the 3 seed. Colorado, with what Deion Sanders is doing, they give him 2 years. He's going to have that program getting a bye in the first round, which means the first round games I have is Ohio State at Auburn, East Carolina at Alabama, Notre Dame at Michigan, renew that rivalry, and then Wisconsin at Clemson. So the road that I have for Ohio State at this point, they go to Auburn, and if they win that, they would get to say go play USC in the Rose Bowl. Now, that seems that's okay by me.
That would be okay by me. One minor correction for you. Put some respect on USC's name. That would be 2024 Big Ten champion USC, 2024 Big Ten or SEC champion Georgia. Now you have Texas in there. The top 4 teams are all automatic bid for conferences. Texas will be an SEC team in 2024. So
there you go.
So it would be Clemson would be the 3 seed there, and Colorado number 4 as the Pac-12 champion. Which, no notes, perfect. I'm sure that's going to happen.
I was so focused on Colorado.
Like, I've got this great bit. Hang on. So yes, this will not be the only thing changing for 2024, by the way. But yeah, Ohio State going to Auburn or LSU, or pick your Texas A&M, pick your Southern city, Florida State, Miami. Oh man, that's the most cursed path here, where Ohio State goes to place Miami and then plays in the Orange Bowl in the quarterfinals, and then goes and plays in the Orange Bowl for the national championship, and we just live in Miami for a month. There's a reason I don't live in Miami. I'm going to call that the most cursed path that Ohio State could possibly have. But yeah, I mean, I think the thing I'm most excited about for this whole thing is going and playing in a different stadium. Let's go see Ohio State play at Tennessee, or at Texas A&M, or at Oregon, or at Washington, or at Clemson, or at Florida State, or at the Swamp, or wherever it is. This is going to be a bunch of matchups of teams you don't get to see playing each other very often. As it works out on your bracket, Ohio State playing at Auburn. Yeah, we haven't seen. I don't think Ohio State and Auburn have done a home and home. Yeah, I think they've only played in bowl games, I believe. So that would be a first. Or Ohio State playing at LSU for the first time since the 80s or something like that. You have East Carolina as the non-power team playing at Alabama. That's a little less exciting, marginally less exciting. Notre Dame and Michigan you have as a matchup, which, like, that'll be a good, fun rivalry that has not, it's kind of been on and off a little bit the last decade or so. And then I guess it would be Texas and Wisconsin. But again, those are, Wisconsin and Texas probably have never done a home and home series, I'm going to guess. So this is an opportunity for fans to go see different stadiums. It's an opportunity to have different teams playing, so it's not just the same teams every year. Like, we went through a stretch where it was just Alabama and Clemson playing in the playoff every single year, and you kind of get just matchup fatigue, basically. I think this is potentially setting up something where you're not gonna have matchup fatigue for a while, just because it's going to be mixed up enough.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like shuffling a deck, and you never get the same hand twice. The thing I like about this is, and we've done a show about this and how I think we projected how they would do this. And it's games basically every 10 days, and which is gives teams time to recover and prepare, and all of the travel and everything, because they're going to be moving pretty quickly. So, like I said, I've got Ohio State starting at Auburn, then going to the Rose Bowl, getting through that, then say you go to the Cotton Bowl, and then you go to, the championship game after that. But time to travel for the fans, not just the travel, the expenses and finding the time. I know people are like, fans can't afford to go to 4 games and that's why I have Ohio State on the road in the playoffs, just because that is a possible option. And this is with the thing I did mention, this is Ohio State losing to USC in the Big Ten championship game as well. And that game was in Las Vegas. I don't know if you knew that. So if Ohio State fans want to go to like all of the postseason games, like theoretically, I hope it stays in Indianapolis forever. But there could be some real travel involved in the Big Ten championship game, then going to a campus, and good luck getting a ticket for that game, because I assume that's going to be like the 5,000 allotment. Maybe they'll try to give 10,000 because it's a playoff game. I wonder how they're going to work that out, because you don't get a lot for a road game normally. I think you probably have to get a little bit more for a road game in the postseason, but just because you double the allotment, I think it's going to be 4 times harder to get.
And I totally agree that that's going to be the most expensive game, I think, of the whole thing, just because you have people who don't have to travel. And after that first round where it's on campus sites, you're going to have, USC, Ohio State, Rose Bowl. You're going to have, for that, you've got USC fans there. So it's basically a home game for USC. But if it's a Georgia versus Ohio State Rose Bowl, at that point, how many Georgia fans are traveling for that? Because what we've seen in the past with a lot of semifinals is teams who are highly ranked, who are playing far from home in those semifinal games, you'll a lot of times have the I'm saving my money and we're going to go to the championship game instead kind of mindset. And sometimes you win and you get to do that, and sometimes you lose and then you don't get to go to any games at all. I wonder where that impact is going to hit the hardest. My suspicion is it'll be the semifinal games where you have, two fan bases traveling on relatively short notice. In this case, it's teams playing on December 31st, January 1st, and then they have to go to the Cotton Bowl what was the other one? It's messed up on here, but the Cotton Bowl and the Orange Bowl. Yeah, okay. So the Cotton Bowl and the Orange Bowl, and at that point, you have 8 days to plan that, and also your team is one win away from playing in the national championship. So how many people are going to? and it's the middle of a work week. This is not Wednesday, January 9th. This is a Thursday night and a Friday. So you're missing work time. You're doing this trip on a week notice, or give or take. Those are the ones that I feel like you might have the biggest attendance drop off. Like those, the atmosphere in those, unless it's a close game. If it's Georgia playing in the Peach Bowl, or it's Miami playing in the Orange Bowl, or USC playing in the, Texas playing in the Cotton Bowl, or whatever, I think you're going to have a real drop off in atmosphere for those semifinal games, because that'll be the one where people go, you're going to go to the New Year's Day bowl game because it's New Year's Day and it's an incredible tradition, and you've had the week before off for Christmas and New Year's and all that stuff. I think your best crowds, your highest resale ticket amounts are going to be for those first rounds on campus, and your worst games, your worst atmospheres, your worst lowest ticket resale prices are going to be for those semifinal games when everyone has sort of spent their money already. And if they have any more money, they're looking at the championship game going, well, I'm going to wait one more game and then we'll go to the national championship game if they make it.
Semifinals on campus. That's the solution there. That way you can, that only costs you 2 bowl games at that point. But no, it's an interesting point, because the timing of this, and 10 days is not a lot of time, but the good news is for a lot of people, they won't have used any vacation time yet. So the calendar has rolled over. So now you can go ahead and burn your 2 weeks the first month of the year, which is always fantastic. Now, I don't know if they're going to do this regionally, kind of like they do now, where you allow the higher seeds you try to put them together. And the way I've done it here is regional, not only just the teams, but the bowls, like the Rose Bowl and the Fiesta Bowl lead into the Cotton Bowl, Western U.S., whereas the Sugar Bowl and the Peach Bowl lead into the Orange Bowl, Eastern U.S. I wonder if they're going to try to keep it that way to perhaps counter what you're saying with the semifinals, because at least you can get some local traffic there and local fans, even if it's a day's drive, it's 2 days off of work, rather than 4 or 5 if you're flying out from Miami, those fans flying out to California to play a game. So I wonder if they do something like that, not unlike the women's basketball tournament.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's certainly a possibility, and that would make sense. I do think Ohio State fans are probably among the worse off among fan bases that are likely to have to go to multiple college football playoff games, just in terms of the travel, because we have done the drive from the Peach Bowl. That's not a terrible drive. That was 8-9 hours, something like that. That's not a bad drive. We have done the drive from the Cotton Bowl. That is a little bit of a haul. That was 16 hours, 17 hours, something like that. We've done the drive for the Sugar Bowl. That was like 11 hours or so, 12 hours, something like that. These are all doable drives, but these are not like easy trips either. These are not super, super close trips. It's not drive 3 hours to Indianapolis. Alabama, Georgia, basically anyone in the SEC or Southern ACC footprint, or Texas or Oklahoma, you've got much closer games. Southern California teams, you got much closer games. USC could be in the Rose Bowl in half an hour or 4 hours, depending on what time it is in LA. But you're also 6-7 hours from the Fiesta Bowl. I mean, there's multiple trips that are very close. Schools like Oregon, schools like Washington, Ohio State, Notre Dame, Penn State, Michigan, those are the ones where that's going to be really a challenge. And I guess if we're going to look at this on the positive side, if you were an Ohio State fan who, has not done a lot of these, you're going to have Ohio State fans who go to all 4 of these games potentially because they are the type of Ohio State fan who is a crazy Ohio State fan, but also has the means and the means to make those multiple trips. There are going to be a bunch of people who don't necessarily have the means to make 4 trips, but now if tickets are cheaper and tickets are easier to get, maybe you do go to the Cotton Bowl semifinal or something like that. Just get in the car and drive down there or fly down there or whatever it is. Fly down, stay for a couple days. You can do it relatively cheaply. You don't have to stay in the fancy downtown hotel. Stay somewhere outside of town. Stay, go buy tickets on StubHub an hour before the game when they're 50% below face or whatever it is. And you can do it. And it's more opportunities to travel, which can be a good thing. Or in the case of people who would want to go to all of them and probably don't have the financial means to go to Auburn, Alabama, and then Pasadena, and then Arlington, Texas, and then Hollywood, Florida, that can also be a bad thing.
Yeah, and I think the good thing is it gives people more opportunity to go because it's not. I don't think people, the organizations, the administrations, the schools care about one family being able to afford 4 games. It's about 4 families being able to afford 1 game now, or that you can try to get tickets for the Rose Bowl. We couldn't get tickets for the Rose Bowl, but we got them for the Cotton Bowl the week later. So, as long as the ticket sales, and they'll sell tickets, and then you can back out of it if your team doesn't make it. So there's some of that. And when say when Colorado loses the Fiesta Bowl, the Colorado fans who bought tickets to the Cotton Bowl will release them or whatever. So there will be opportunities to go to games more than ever before because there are more games. And as you said, some people will be priced out of going to multiple games. The semifinals may become like the spring game, basically. Hey, a whole family can go for just $6,000. Wow, you cannot pass up this opportunity to go to a semifinal game. And it's a semifinal game. It is a big thing. It is a big deal. And it's one stop away from playing for a national title. And being at the Georgia game last year, that was a crazy, fun environment. And for the people who have been there, they'll want to go again. And I think this just gives people, for an Ohio State who would plan to play three playoff bowl games, basically, this gives you an opportunity to get one of those, and it increases the lottery to everybody. And so I don't really, if some people can't afford to go to all 3 games, I'm sorry that, maybe spend your money, maybe save your money a little bit wiser so that you can spend it on 4 bowl trips or whatever. But I feel better for the fans who couldn't go before, but now could.
And I think you might also, as this sort of becomes the norm, I wonder if you're going to see people start to turn Christmas into, hey, instead of stuff, we're going to go do a thing. Let's go do an experiential thing. And you're going to, for Christmas, you're going to go to the home game on the semifinals, and you're going to, that's your Christmas present. Or you're going to go to, you're going to go to the quarterfinal in the Peach Bowl, and you're going to go, drive down there and stay outside of Atlanta for 2 days, and then you get tickets for the Peach Bowl, and it's not that insanely expensive, and it's just a couple days of food and whatever, and then you drive home like that. You can do that, and it doesn't have to be a $6,000 trip. I wonder if you're going to see that become something that more people are doing as there are more opportunities to do this kind of stuff, and more, that potentially, hey, the semifinal game, if it becomes known that the semifinal games are more inexpensive, well, maybe more people try and do something like that for a planned trip. And, if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. And then, okay, you'll go to the bowl game the next year or whatever. But yeah, it feels like there are opportunities here for people to, let's turn this into a little bit of an adventure. We've been to a bunch of bowl games, and they're generally fun experiences. It's generally a pretty good game. These are going to be very high stakes games. So I think it's going to become a thing that becomes more popular as things go along. You're probably going to have that first year burst of everyone's so excited and everyone's going to go to everything. And then as it sort of moves along, I think it's going to become, maybe people are going to do a little more strategically. But yeah, as we have seen, Tony, over the years, there are Ohio State fans everywhere. So if you're an Ohio State fan down in Atlanta or Miami or New Orleans or Texas or Pasadena, they're good, or at Arizona, there are always a ton of Ohio State fans wherever you go, and they all will have the circus is coming to town at some point.
Yeah, there are local Buckeye fans everywhere, though I am now imagining the the Christmas gift aspect of this. Like, can we open up Christmas present early? Yes, here's your one Christmas present you can open up early. And it's a printout of hotel reservations to Auburn, Alabama. And the kids are like, what is this?
What's this toilet paper for?
Surprise! We're going to the middle of nowhere, Alabama.
Yeah, I mean,
Are we dumping a body?
I think this is one of these things we probably need to make clear. There is a certain type of person that would view a trip to Auburn, Alabama for a certain type of event as a positive Christmas present experience. Know your audience is maybe my big takeaway there. Make sure this person is pretty into college football, because going to Clemson, South Carolina, or Tuscaloosa, Alabama, or Auburn, Alabama, or Baton Rouge, Louisiana, or College Station, Texas, or Norman, Oklahoma. It's going to be they're going to be fun trips for a certain subset of people, and I feel like you probably know whether you fall within that subset of people, because there are a lot of people who might not find that as charming as you or I might.
Definitely not. So as we would travel this, Tom, the turnaround time on this, because these are, say we're flying we're driving to Auburn, you get home on the 21st or the 22nd, and then we're going to be home for like 3 or 4 days before we have to fly out somewhere else. And then you cover that game for 3 or 4 days. Then you come home for 3 days to go fly somewhere else to cover that for 3 or 4 days. And then you're home for 3 more days before you go fly out for another 4 days for the championship game. That is a lot of travel. It's a lot of strain on a marriage. I don't think that's, we all have, because we do a lot, both you and I, Tom, we do a lot. And so there takes a village, and it will take 2 villages if we have to be gone for like almost an entire month.
Yeah, there's a lot of additional costs there. The flights, the hotels, the food, the gas, the rental cars, the cost of a second house or apartment once you move home and your wife has left all your stuff on the front porch because you've been in Auburn, Alabama, and Arlington, Texas, and Lord knows wherever else for the last 16 of the last 25 days or whatever it is. Yeah, it's gonna be fun. But yeah, these are, it's going to be exciting. It's going to be interesting. I think the other thing that probably needs to get mentioned here is I'm not expecting a lot of teams to have 4 games here. I don't think you're going to have very many. This is like when you're in a youth sports tournament, and if you're one of the teams playing, who's lost a couple pool play games, and you're playing in the first round of games, odds are you're probably not making it to the championship game. So, you start the day and it's like, boy, we could have to play 5 games today. It's like, you're probably going to play 2 or 3. That's just kind of how that typically works out. The travel expenses for the top 4 teams are going to be substantial. The only thing that gives me a little bit of pause on this is because of the way they're doing the seeding, where it's the conference championships automatically get the top 4 buys. Last year, it would have been Kansas State had a bye, Clemson had a bye, Georgia had a bye, and Michigan had a bye. So if you're Ohio State and you're playing Kansas State in the quarterfinals, I think you're probably winning that game. And then you get to the semifinals, and, if you're playing Georgia or whatever, we saw how close Ohio State came to beating Georgia. So there are definitely ways that could happen where you do end up playing 4 games. I'm not expecting East Carolina fans to have to worry about playing 4 games, but if anyone, like I said earlier, Ohio State fans might be getting it the worst in terms of the amount of travel you're doing, in terms of distance. Ohio State fans might also be, because of the way this is all set up, potentially the ones who would be most likely to see a 4-game sequence of postseason games. And then at that point, it's 12 regular season games and a Big Ten championship game potentially, and 4 more games after that. I think at some point they're probably going to have to look at either getting rid of the conference championship games or shaving a game off the regular season. Maybe start the regular season a little earlier to build in an extra bye week. You're going to have to do something, because that's going to take a pretty significant physical toll on a lot of these teams. Yeah,
and that's what, 17 games I think you had there. And honestly, I will be shocked if there is, how many times over a 10-year span would we even see a team play 17 games? Maybe once or twice, and maybe that's why they're going to continue to revisit these things, because if it does happen every year, I think that's a lot. But hey, now that these kids are making NIL, which is a reason I think everybody's okay with kids making NIL, is because they're asking them to play more. But they're also taking the timeout rule, or the clock stopping with the first down rule is in part because of this as well, limiting the number of plays over the course of a season. The number of plays that have been removed will equal a game and a half almost. And so you're asking players essentially to play another game and a half on average, the way things are working out. So they're trying to make things not seem completely overbearing and just way too much for the players. And, talking to the players a couple of years ago at Big Ten Media Days, when this was announced, they were all for it. They couldn't wait, because guys from Minnesota want an opportunity to play in the playoffs. And if it means they have to play 3 more games, they're all for it. They just want an opportunity to win a national championship. And so this is what this has opened up. And so I'm looking forward to it. Tom, anything else before we go?
Yeah, no, I'm definitely looking forward to it too. This is one of the things where there's pros and cons to it, but I think on the whole, I think this is going to put more emphasis on a lot of the regular season, because you have more teams who are still in it in the regular season. You're going to have the team that's number 1 and doesn't, the last regular season game doesn't matter that much, but the team that's number 12, the team that's number 15, it's going to mean a whole heck of a lot more than it does right now. So you're going to have more meaningful regular season games and more meaningful football, and New Year's Day belonging to college football again. That all feels like good things.
Yeah, and for the people who say that this devalues the regular season, there are schools of thought. It makes every game more valuable. It makes more games more valuable than previously, because you could start out 1-2 and your season is over. The next 9 games aren't meaningful at all. In this, they are, and those people forget about that aspect of it, where more games longer in the season mean more. So that will do it for this episode. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. As always, find us at BuckeyeHuddle.com. Become a member. Say hello to us there on the message board. We are there constantly, just there for you. And we're here for you as well. Also, youtube.com/BuckeyeHuddle. Go ahead and hit that bell to be notified when we go live, when we drop any kind of videos. Hit the thumbs up on this one if you could, and go ahead and subscribe to the channel while you're there. Also, you can find us on Facebook. It's facebook.com, I assume, /BuckeyeHuddle. I think that's how they do their URLs there, but you can just do a search for us on Facebook there. Go ahead and follow us there, like us there as well. So thank you all for tuning in. We'll talk to you guys later.